Hello and welcome to another episode of the Podcast of Terror, a production of Galactic Netcasts. I am your host, Matt Stein, and with me as always is Corey Scott. How are you?
It was so abrupt. I almost missed the Big Daddy Spork when you skip over it like that.
I thought about it. I'm like, Netcasts. I am your host, Matt Stein, and with me as always is Corey Scott. How are you?
It was so abrupt. I almost missed the Big Daddy Spork when you skip over it like that.
Damn it.
I
forgot to turn the audio down on the
like,
video, so we gotta start over now. All right,
that's okay. It's better that we get it wrong.
Well, I was really
suitable towards who we are.
Yeah, I was really confused. I was like, "What is happening?"
Yeah, I was looking at my computer like, "What did I do? What did I do?"
Oh, my fault. Let's try it again. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Podcast of Terror, a production of Galactic Netcasts. I am your host, Matt Stein, and with me as always is Corey Scott. Corey, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing this week?
Better the second time we did this, because the first time, basically I didn't turn the audio down on YouTube, and we finally figured out how to use the chat thing.
And doesn't
for so long,
and you don't let us look like professionals. You're just like pointing out the shit that people wouldn't really know unless they look at the video.
Well, but the thing is if people were there and talking to us, we were ignoring them. So I'd rather recognize that we just kind of are dumb.
We are dumb.
So if you chatted and we ignored you, we're sorry.
And if you didn't chat and we ignored you, we feel kind of okay with that.
Mm-hmm. Yes. For more on this podcast, including show notes, contact information, subscription links, go to gncast.com/pot. For other shows from the Galactic Netcast, go to gncast.com.
The Podcast of Terror is rather spoiler heavy, so if you haven't seen the movie that we're talking about, you might want to pause this and watch it first. This week's movie is Midnight Meat Train, which unfortunately contained no Gladys Knight and no Pips. Also, we're likely to swear.
No penises either.
Close.
That's very true. But given the name, you'd expect there to be a plethora of dick, if you will.
Many much dick.
Many much dick.
And if you feel like you're not getting enough dick in your life, you can go ahead and listen to last week's episode where we had Nate and Brandon from Inky Podcast. That was the Podcast of Dick.
Yeah, that was a lot of dick. And then I actually ended up short notice being on the Sincast, which I think came out today, which is Monday, the day we're recording this, which will be yesterday or 2 days ago, depending on whenever you listen to this on iTunes. But that was more dick.
And if you absolutely need an abacus to watch that, figure out when the date was, you can just go to your favorite podcaster, except for Stitcher, apparently, because those assholes still haven't put it on there, even though I asked them to.
Dicks.
I did spend today listening to Diary of a Trans Woman, and I was listening to Mind of a Geek on my way home, the one with Dan Foley, and nice. I have been enjoying them both.
Nice. I discussed with Nate I'm going to be on Mind of a Geek on May 30th, so I have almost 2 full months to listen to an episode to figure out what the hell I'm doing there. But you should.
I think you're right on point. I think you're right on point with it.
Oh, just dicks all day?
Yeah, every day.
Every day. Dicks all day, every day. Enough dicks, though. I guess we should talk about what we came here for.
I mean, except for us.
There will be 2 dicks here, Corey and I. If you're new to listening to this podcast because we picked you up somewhere along the way, the first thing we like to do is talk about news, because that's fun.
We absolutely try.
We tried. We don't know.
We're very good at it.
First of all, I'm kind of excited about this one. Stephen King's The Shining is getting a sequel, and then his book Dr. Sleep is getting a film adaptation. Now,
Dr. Sleep, I believe, is the sequel to The Shining.
Is it really?
Yes.
God damn it.
But let's talk honestly about it. The Shining, as most people know it, is the movie with Jack Nicholson, or if you're really a glutton for punishment, the 2-episode series that was a remake, sort of, not really, closer to the book, with Steven Weber from Wings that they did a few years ago.
So should I be concerned that I was 100% unaware that A, Dr. Sleep existed, and B, that it was the sequel to The Shining and made into a movie?
No, I because have you ever read The Shining?
No, but like My mom was a huge Stephen King fan, so I remember seeing the books as a kid, and I never remember seeing Doctor Sleep sitting around her house. And she
Doctor Sleep is pretty recent. Doctor
Oh, it
Sleep is
is.
not a new book.
That would be why.
And the thing that you have to kind of keep in mind is that the Shining film is very, very different from the book.
And that's what I've heard. Now, my thing is his books are incredibly long, and I do not have a very good attention span. And now I've found enough podcasts to listen to that I can't really do book on tape while driving all over God's green earth.
Yeah, it's tough. I have only read 3 Stephen King books and only 2 of them to completion. The first one was The Eyes of the Dragon, which everybody said, even at the time that I was reading in the 80s, is so unlike the rest of his stuff that it almost doesn't make sense that you read that first. And then I read most of The Gunslinger, which is the first book in the Dark Tower series, and I just never quite finished it. But it was right when I moved to California and was kind of out of my element. So when I decided to find my element, I stopped reading for a while. And finally, I read On Writing, which is a terrific book. But again, not an example of Stephen King's normal stuff. It's a book about writing and about him and his journey as a writer. Great, impeccable book if you're interested in writing at all. It has a lot of fantastic stuff in it, but just, yeah. The thing with Stephen King, as I understand it, is that his books are amazing reads, and then he shits the bed in the ending almost every time. And his fans don't really mind it because they're so good all the way through up until that part. But a lot of the time, it's like he gets to this point where he just goes, oh, well, I'm going to kill half the cast, or, oh, it's aliens again, or, you know, we rape a little girl. I just...
Dark turn, but
not rape. I think it was voluntary, but that was spoilers. The ending to one of his stories.
But like you said, there's always that alien turn, and I remember that distinctly. I mean, I was growing up. Obviously, it was a big show, but The Langoliers is still one of my favorite movies. Tommyknockers, Dreamcatcher, I believe, and they all kind of have this weird alien turn in them.
Yeah.
So it kind of became a shtick, and there was, I mean, obviously it was prevalent enough that the TV show Family Guy, I like how I prefaced Family Guy as being a TV show in case someone's never heard of it, but there was
a random dude down the street who happens to have a family.
Yeah, that's true. There's Family Guy down the street, but it was, and I don't remember the specific episode or whatever, but they were just talking about how like Stephen King's really phoning it in, and it's him like sitting at his publisher's desk or something, and he just goes, my 300th book, The Lamp Monster, comes and kills her, and he just picks up a lamp and he goes, yeah. So like it's pretty commonly known that he just kind of writes weird, I wouldn't call them half-baked ideas, but there's always like aliens and shit going on, and I don't know, I guess you kind of just have to expect it. I mean,
yeah, I mean, he's not a planner. Stephen King's a person who sits down and just goes with, you know, whatever pops in his head at the time. He doesn't outline. This is stuff that he says, at least. He doesn't outline. He doesn't think ahead. He just starts writing and sees where the story takes him, which is amazing, you know. And I'm a seat of the pants writer a lot of the time too, and I've realized that is one of my bigger failings. But I'm not the craftsman that King is, anyways. And so what he does is incredible all the way up until that point, and then you either can stick with him through the end or you can't. You like the Tommyknockers? Oh wait, no, what was the one with Morgan Freeman?
Oh boy, Morgan Freeman, Stephen King.
I mentioned it, and I just Tommyknockers, Langoliers.
No. That was Shawshank Redemption.
No, not that one. He was in another one with him, with Jason Lee. Huh?
Dreamcatcher was the other one.
Dreamcatcher, yes. You like Dreamcatcher, you said.
I didn't say I liked it.
Okay. I was going to say, because isn't that the one where Jason Lee was killed by a legitimate shit monster?
I believe so. And you have to keep in mind that I didn't know or remember it enough to be able to recognize that Morgan Freeman was in that movie.
Yeah. And the guy from that Showtime show, Damian Lewis, plays essentially a part.
Donnie Wahlberg's in it too, apparently.
Yeah, but Damian Lewis goes crazy and starts talking to himself like fucking Smeagol and Gollum when he's riding around on the snowmobile. I just remember that movie being a goddamn mess. We went and saw it in the theater, and it was just such a wreck.
I remember watching it like in high school at a friend's house. So, and that's the only time I haven't watched it since. Now, Tommy Knockers and Langolier and The Stand and It. I believe I have one more, but I like own them on DVD. Dreamcatcher I've never watched since.
Yeah, Dreamcatcher, man, it was
It was not
so
good.
terrible.
Yeah.
And the other ones that can be forgiven because they were made for television, but Dreamcatcher was like had a lot of good people in it and just turned out to be horrible from the very beginning all the way through.
I feel
That's
like
okay.
at that point he had made enough made for TV movies and been like cited as a credible. You can't really say that Stephen King is the reason that Dreamcatcher the movie sucked, because all of the movies kind of take a different turn from his books, except and you know what? I'm gonna just fucking stop there because I've never read one of his books and then seen it, so I don't know how different they are. So this is better for you to answer than me.
No, actually, I haven't read them either. So, I mean, I guess that's kind of the point is that we can't compare them to the originals. I will say that his earlier films seem to hold together a little bit well comparatively.
I feel like if you're making a 6-hour TV miniseries versus a 90-minute movie, you're able to keep a lot more of what the book. You know, The Stand was what 8-9 hours.
Yeah, but
So-
I don't know that The Stand was fantastic. I'm talking about things like Christine, Carrie, which we reviewed on here, even Maximum Overdrive. I just love that movie. I think it's a blast, but obviously it was based, I think, off of a short story, not a full book, and is a little different. Cujo, some of those things kind of were different. But in the case of The Shining, that's kind of right there is the problem, is that if it's going to follow the book more than the movie, maybe that's going to confuse people because they remember the movie. They're going to be disappointed that there's very unlikely to be a Jack Nicholson, although he shouldn't come back anyways. I just kind of wonder what they're going to go from to make this feel okay for the movie people, strictly movie people, as opposed to the book reading people.
we will likely find out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't. I'm such a shitty person. I never read these things. As a good friend of mine says, he just reads the headlines.
Well, Dr. Sleep takes place years after the events at the Overlook Hotel and focuses on the now middle-aged Danny, who is still traumatized. He's followed in his father's footsteps and has problems with anger management and alcoholism. He soon gives up drinking and settles in a small town in New Hampshire. While there, his psychic abilities start to resurface and he develops a psychic link with a 12-year-old girl named Abra Stone, who he must save after he discovers her life is being threatened by a tribe of paranormals led by a man named Rose the Hat.
I was just curious if there was like a release date. I didn't need a fucking synopsis.
Well, fuck you then.
I actually think a buddy of mine was just at the hotel. There was a band called, I know I've talked about it before. It was Grant, who was on the first episode of the podcast. There's a band called Murder by Death who once a year does a concert there, and then like people can rent out their rooms and stuff. And I believe that just happened. I'll have to talk to him, see how it was.
Yeah, and speaking of that, we can move on to our next news story, which is the original Texas Chainsaw location is becoming a horror barbecue resort.
Which I'm super excited because it's right outside of Austin, Texas, which is where I sometimes go for work. And I think it's an hour the opposite direction. They took the house that the movie was filmed in is now like a breakfast diner.
Yeah, and I think they're using the gas station as part of it as well. So they're trying to legitimize it to make it look more like it originally did in the film, because I guess it's been redone a couple of times, and they're working really hard to make it a good spot for people to pop in and say, "Hey, I want to eat something that reminds me of human flesh,"
which would be fucking awesome.
It is kind of awesome.
The first ever Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th is also involved.
Good. As a chef?
I don't know. That's all it says. I hope not.
You don't know. It could have been his life stream to be a chef. Maybe that's why he carried that big knife around.
It's true. He never knows if he's going to have to butcher a pig.
Yeah.
Actually,
if we're talking about the original Jason Voorhees, and that's a child, which would make sense. He'd be age appropriate now.
I don't know if they mean it that way or like the original actor, who I believe was Kane Hodder. He was the first adult Jason.
Yeah, well, this is Ari Lerham.
Oh, God. See, this all goes back to the I only read headlines, apparently. I got to look this guy up. But it appears that there's There's no idea on when it would open, which kind of sucks. Things are coming out nicely. You can keep up the progress at Rose's Facebook by clicking below. There will be a link in the show notes for this news story.
Yeah, both of these stories came to us from bloodydisgusting.com, which is an excellent website.
Yeah, it's great. God,
We ride their nuts a lot when it comes to our news.
Oh yeah, for sure. This Ari gentleman has a tits fucking mustache.
Yeah, seriously, he looks like a wizard.
He was the first. He played the kid.
He's like Ronnie James Gandalf. Look at him. He's beautiful.
That's true. If Dio and Gandalf made a mustachioed baby. But yeah, he played the child version of Jason.
Yeah.
So in case anyone was at this point still confused.
I hope he wears a hairnet and a mustache net.
I just want to touch his mustache with my tongue. We have Special Mark Productions in the YouTube chat says if the barbecue is not made of real human meat, then it's not authentic.
This goes back to something. There was a time a few years ago where someone was making or trying to at least market a pseudo human flesh that was made, I believe, out of vegetarian stuff.
Tofu?
But, probably. I'm going to guess. But made to look and taste like human flesh. Now, first of all, who's doing the taste test comparisons to decide that that's what it should taste like? Somebody's got to be the one to say, well, it's a little too salty.
It needs flesh and bone.
Right. Secondly, I kind of feel like, have you ever seen something called a real doll?
Yes, I have.
All right.
Talking to?
I wonder sometimes. You're a little too free with your identity online.
Oh,
but
boy.
I've often looked at, because my wife has watched a bunch of the TLC specials about the guys who are into real dolls, like really, really into real dolls. Not just Howard Stern says he owns one.
What's the name of the show? Because I need to make sure I never watch this.
Oh, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. There's no way you'll mistake it for anything else. It's not like the real world with dolls.
I'm not going to start Googling real doll TV show. Go dirty, dark places.
That's where you usually hang now. So anyways, I kind of figure the real doll people are just sort of a step away from necrophiliacs, because you look at them, there's nothing lifelike about them. And I just feel like this is the road that you're traveling down and you're sort of rocketing there. So I'm a marketer at heart. So when I heard about the pseudo-human flesh, I thought, how can we use that to make real dolls and sell them to wannabe cannibals?
This is taking a very dark turn.
I just think that that's something that, it would have sold. It would have sold a lot. And I missed my niche.
That's quite possibly a very good. It's quite possibly a very good market, but I'm going to go on a whim here and say that Special Mark Productions' real name is Mark, but he said that the show's called Guys and Dolls. I hope he's serious.
I'd really like it if they did.
It's a bunch of guys and dolls. So the musical is really about guys who love real dolls, apparently.
Yep.
God damn, that was hilarious. So there's obviously, like, they took the technology from real dolls, and like obviously I get tattooed a lot, so I know that some of the guys who, when they start to learn how to tattoo now, they, instead of tattooing themselves like they used to, they now like tattoo these fake hands that are the same feel of skin. I've
seen fake skin that you can put on and tattoo over.
They do hands now, which is weird, but I guess. Oh, you could do, like, they used to do pigs too, but a fake hand is cheaper than a pig.
That's true. But then you can eat your art, which is always nice. Although I guess in this case, I'm suggesting that you can as well.
I don't even know.
Oh, no, that's a bad road. Never mind. I was just going to say, you've heard the story of Kevin Smith where he didn't wash his fleshlight for a long time. But now I decided that we're just going to move on. We're going to talk about the movie.
I didn't know that. And yes, we are. We're just going to move past Kevin Smith fucking a flashlight. As mentioned earlier, the movie is the 2008 Midnight Meat Train, starring Bradley Cooper, which was recommended to us from probably my new friend. I don't know if you've talked to him. I'm just kidding. Martin on Twitter. He comes to us via the Matt Vincent episodes, which is awesome. to bridge the gap. So props, Martin.
Yes, thank you, Martin. Thank you for giving us suggestions because it makes it a lot easier and better for
Sure.
us. Because
And
I had never heard of this goddamn movie.
neither have I, which was a surprise since it's fucking Bradley Cooper. And it wasn't terrible. It was just very confusing. I actually had to go back and reread the synopsis to try and like understand what I watched.
Well, let me give you a heads up first. I don't know how far you went down through the hole on this, but this is based off of a 1984, I believe, short story by Clive Barker. And this was part of Barker's productions. It's from his first Books of Blood novel of short stories. And he did not direct, which a lot of people were kind of like, okay. And the original director dropped out. So it took a long time for the production to happen. This other director, who's mostly done stuff like Japanese films like Godzilla and a few other things, he took it over. So this was kind of a big crossover for him. Also, Barker was very upset because the guy who ran the production company was trying to pitch another movie that he had his name on over this one. I don't remember what movie it was, but I know that it was at the time far more popular than this was when it came out.
As is apparently at one point they were discussing it becoming a trilogy.
Yeah, I can sort of see that. I don't know what needs to be said after the end scene in it.
I could see there being a sequel given the end, where you see Bradley Cooper become the Butcher, which I have my issues, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. So, do you want to give a short synopsis? We all know I'm really shitty at describing things shortly.
Yeah, this is a weird one. So Bradley Cooper is a photographer in, I'm assuming, New York. I think that might have been pointed out, but I wasn't paying that much attention. Also, like the David Duchovny character that we watched when we watched California, I'm always surprised by people who are photographers trying to cross over to the art world. I'm not saying that it's not an art. I'm just saying it confuses me as to how you're going to make a lot of money at it. Whatever. He is living with his girlfriend.
You're talking about a guy who tried to be a musician full time.
Yeah, so. I write comics.
Yeah.
He's living with his girlfriend Maya, who's played by Leslie Bibb, who I mostly know from the Iron Man movies that Tony Stark bangs. And he's trying to get his friend Jurgis to introduce him to the giant art mogul played by Brooke Shields, not swimming in a lagoon, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. As he's doing this, the art mogul says to him, "Your art is halfway there." Roughly, she's like, you're kind of a pussying out when you go out and you take these pictures. You're almost at the point where you're getting something good, and then you stop. And what you need to do is you need to go that extra step and, find something that's actually striking and good. And he goes home and he's thinking about it all night. He winds up going to the subway. He follows this group of thuggish men as they go down the subway, and they start to attack and attempt to sexually assault a woman. He confronts them, not super bravely, but just enough. Like when he decides that he has the shot, and he starts to think a little bit more level-headedly, like maybe I should stop this woman from getting raped. He confronts them. They come up to him. They go away. The girl kisses him and gets on the train, and we see her get murdered by this guy named Mahogany, who we never really hear his name in the film, but I guess that's what they decided to name him. And he is basically going around on this train every night, killing people. We see him kill someone at the beginning. We don't know why. We see him kill people throughout the whole thing. We still don't know why. It doesn't come together until the end. As it goes on, Cooper's character, Leon, finds out. He takes some pictures of the guy later on, realizes that he was on the train when the woman who disappears got on there. He tries to tell the cops. Cops don't believe him. He starts following the guy around, finds him in some 24-hour butchery.
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, because he goes there late at night later on, and he just opens the door, but nobody's in there. And I'm like, well, I kind of feel like they would lock it if there was nobody there, or just some random guy can come walking in. He becomes obsessed with the Vinnie Jones's character, his girlfriend and his friend try to basically prove whatever's going on with him is either a lie or is true. So they go and they break into this guy's place. Mahogany kills the artsy friend. Leslie Bibb goes to the cops. The cops say, "No, you're full of shit," and send her off again. And it all coalesces on the meat train
at midnight. Dun,
Yeah.
dun, dun. So my big hang up with this, and I'm kind of skipping towards the end of the movie, but Mahogany didn't really like. So at the end of the movie, you find out that like he's definitely doing this not by choice but by force. So by Bradley Cooper killing Mahogany, he then becomes the next butcher, which is all fine and good. But like, I don't know, man. If I was being forced to murder people, like one person a night, and then cut them up and stuff, I probably wouldn't give a fuck if someone came and killed me. Because if they came and killed me, I wouldn't have to murder people anymore.
Yeah, I mean, the conductor of the train, who is in on it, and seems to be more powerful than Mahogany. He basically says he lost his heart for it. He lost the taste for it. So that means that at some point, Vinnie Jones's character was really into doing it.
Right, but then so if you don't care about it anymore, like why would you care that Bradley Cooper's coming after you? Like why would you try and kill him? I feel like you'd be better off either being in prison or dead.
Because I think it's a sense of duty. What we find out is that this is, first of all, this is a complete ripoff of the Santa Claus. But if you follow the story, what it is that there are these creatures who live underneath the subway in the subterranean world underneath New York, and the butcher on the train is basically killing people to feed the meat to these creatures, and that is an agreement between them and the outside world so that they'll stay in check. You keep feeding us, we won't come up and just eat all of humanity. Mm-hmm. But you're kind of eating humanity just slowly, bits at a time. So if you came up there, maybe we could kill you. I don't know. I guess it depends on how much of them there are, and maybe that's why the sequel would have been important.
Yeah, because you never really see them, or I missed it.
You see them a little bit, but it's just sparingly, and they're just faceless beasts like you would see in your Silent Hill type games. They just kind of have teeth and no features and barren skin and look gross. But I don't know if when they convert Leon over to be the new butcher, if they do it in such a way that, I mean, one, they rip out his tongue and eat it in front of him.
Yes.
And two, they make it seem like this is a necessity. They take all of what is important in his life away, but we see things earlier in it where he keeps having flashes of stuff with the butcher anyway. So I think after his first interaction, and when he goes and he eats the steak, he starts out in this as a vegan.
Yes. Yeah.
Not a very good vegan, because he has the chef at the diner that his girlfriend works at fry the tofu on the same cooking area where he fries up meat and stuff next to it.
Yeah, I have my best friend's a vegetarian, and I've seen him pick pepperoni off a pizza if he's hungry enough.
Yeah, so, I mean, it really depends on how hardcore you are into it.
Yeah. But
then he goes and he eats his friend's steak. He's just like, it's just a bite.
And I feel like the eating of the steak is like, it might be foreshadowing for the fact that he is kind of turning into the butcher. I mean, at this point, he's really just obsessed with Mahogany, and he's obsessed with hunting him down. But then, obviously, later on, you see, I mean, he becomes the butcher.
Yeah, and so it feels a little bit like there are parts of this that aren't well explained enough as to why this is happening to this character, why he's accepting it, why he goes from, I'm taking pictures of things so I can be a famous artist, to I'm obsessed with this guy that I think maybe kidnapped this girl that I only saw for a second. And now I'm following him around everywhere, let alone that his friend and his fiance get out on it and go break into the dude's home.
Which, all going back to the fact that this was apparently talked about as being a trilogy. So I think they banked on the fact that there was going to be multiples of these, and they haven't come out yet. So there's just a lot of unquestioned or unanswered questions.
Yeah, I do love that Bradley Cooper, I mean, 2008, Bradley Cooper was still pretty prime and that he does movies like this. That he shows up on the show Limitless based off of a movie he did that I don't think was super successful, but he's done a few guest spots on there. I like that Bradley Cooper will do these kinds of projects and isn't just so far above it that he's like, yeah, I'll do this crazy horror movie.
Yeah, but if like this was the production on it was actually pretty impressive for being a crazy horror movie.
Yeah. And the movie that Barker was pissed off at Lionsgate's treatment of that they pushed instead was The Strangers.
Oh,
He feels like that.
Acceptable movie though.
Yeah, but he feels like that they were pushing that because the guy who ran Lionsgate had his name as a producer on it, and he didn't have producer credit on this.
That's a tough one because obviously you're taking the head of the production company versus Clive Barker.
Right.
As to who you're gonna maybe they should have split it 50-50, but what do I know? I'm just some asshole in my bedroom talking to the internet.
That's what we do.
So this movie only made $4 million, not even $3.5 million in the box office, which isn't surprising since I had not heard about this until discussions with Martin.
Yeah, I mean, it needed to be pointed out to us, and I'm a Barker fan, so I look for his work, but this was very different because it didn't have the overt artistry that Barker stuff usually has. It didn't have the creature work that Barker stuff usually has. Even if you go to Candyman, which is not like the Barkerist Barker, it's still more of a supernatural thing than what this seemed like up until the end.
But other than the book, what did Barker really have his hand in on this? Do you know?
He was a producer on it.
Oh, he was a producer. Okay, I missed that. Surprise, surprise. Oh yeah, produced by Clive Barker. God, I'm dumb. So stupid.
Yeah, so I wonder if the underlying story of the creatures beneath the ground was more of where he was going to break out, and this was the prequel, like The Matrix was the prequel to the superhero movie that the Wachowskis wanted to do, and they just felt like they had to do that movie first.
Yeah. So maybe we will get the sequels, which I would definitely watch a second. Depending on how the second was, is if I would watch a third, but I am interested enough to see the next one of this.
Yeah, and I want to see also if it's another thing that ties in across the Barkerverse. If it's something that the deeper story leads into things like The Great and Secret Show or Hellraiser or any of his other stuff that all kind of have some similar ties to each other.
Yeah.
It'd be great to see Scott Bakula show up in one of these as Harry Dalmore.
Jesus Christ.
I keep hoping for that. I really like that movie. I like Lord of Illusions.
Why? I know the name, but I can't think of what it is. I'm looking it up. Oh, that one. I don't know if I've ever seen this movie.
We will put it on the chain. We'll hit all of our Barker top movies at some point.
Is it really a horror movie though?
Yes.
Detective fiction and mystery?
Yes.
Okay.
With a lot of supernatural magic involved.
Like I'm really gonna put up a fight to watch a Clive Barker movie.
Right.
And starring Scott Bakula.
Absolutely. And Famke Janssen.
I saw that. I'm gonna look to see who else is in this. No one that I know.
So Vinnie Jones is just Vinnie Jones, right? We just get the fact that he's big, stocky Vinnie Jones, except he's not doing all the great British screaming stuff that we kind of love from him.
Well, so it wasn't until we talked about the fact that Bradley Cooper's tongue gets cut out or ripped out, is that obviously Mahogany's was as well, so he can't talk.
Yeah, he only gets essentially one word in the entire thing, which is too bad because I like Vinnie Jones and I like to see him over the top kind of in anything, even if it's in a comedy or something, or if it's
Lock, but he's still played like a pretty commanding badass even without talking.
Yeah, they did that scene where they tried to put him up against somebody who was also big and strong. Yeah, the guy who came up and fake scared him, and they fought it out in the train, and Vinnie Jones still just like ran the hammer over him, which is excellent. It's what you want to see from that guy. especially if you're going to put him in a murderous role. That's the kind of stuff that you wanna see happen in this.
I liked the use of the hammer.
The hammer was cool.
The, yeah, I mean that's all he used to kill people was just that big ass hammer.
Well, it was almost the least, like it was the most humane thing that he could have used. He had the hook, and you see when he comes up behind Ted Raimi's character when the couple and their friend are there, and their friend is basically trying to talk the couple into a threesome. And he comes up behind Ted Raimi and just blasts his head off, and then he uses the hook on the guy who was more of the dick, and rips him through the crotch with it. And then he does take a couple of strikes to knock the girlfriend or wife out, but
no, she had still,
yeah, I think it's just still that the hammer is a easy kill. If you look at a slaughterhouse, that's how they would normally kill the animals, or like the thing that they use in No Country for Old Men to open the locks on the doors.
Oh, I never saw it.
Oh, geez.
Everyone keeps saying it's so good. I don't know.
It depends on your taste, but as far as a big guy who's intimidating, who does horrific shit, yeah, you would probably like that.
Oh, are you telling me I do horrific shit?
I'm saying that you enjoy watching other people do horrific shit.
Sometimes. But the problem is I have so much other shit that I want to watch that like I don't really have a desire to like watch this. No Country for Old Men, that is. So it's like there's just a lot of other things that I could watch and probably be more interested in. So I'm sure it's something that I will watch at some point. It's just not really high on my radar right now.
I don't know. You had The Revenant on your...
I still have yet to watch it too. Other friends of mine have watched it, and I still have yet to watch it.
I don't know.
I heard it's very good.
It doesn't strike me as interesting at all. If I want to see DiCaprio get raped, I'll just watch him on Growing Pains.
By a bear?
By anybody. By Mike Seaver. But I'm just saying that No Country for Old Men is actually a really good movie.
Yeah, like I said, I'll watch it. It's just a matter of when. I know I've started to watch it, and I just never finished it. This is how I live my life. I rip it and I grip it. Grip it and rip it, other way around. Fuck you.
Those sound like the worst way to poop.
I usually bear down and just give her. You know, if I'm not sweating, I'm not trying hard enough.
I recommend oatmeal.
So I drink Metamucil twice a day.
And so they finish off the movie after getting rid of the original butcher and ripping out Cooper's tongue and giving him the rundown of like, and here are these creatures and we have to feed them. And by the way, your fiance is laying over there on top of these skulls. I'm going to go cut her heart out for no reason.
Yeah. He had every reason to cut her heart out.
It was just like, but it was so... She was alive. She was just unconscious, which she hadn't been unconscious before that. So someone knocked her out apparently and put her on top of the pile of bones.
Yeah.
And then he walks over in his moment of proving to Bradley Cooper that this is why you have to be subservient to us. I'm going to kill your girlfriend in front of you by just cold slicing her open, her waking up to it, and him pulling out her heart and doing the still beating heart thing, which is just so cliche in and of itself.
Right. Which I think is like, that's a very big thing to just kind of gloss over.
Yeah.
So
but how much could Cooper emote at that point?
It's very likely that that scene where they kind of get her and kill her and do all that, knock her out shit, is just cut from the movie. Yeah,
I guess so. I mean, he would have been the only guy who would have done it. Otherwise, the creatures would have just eaten her as part of the meat. That's true. The best scene, though. The best scene in the whole goddamn movie is that their friend, Jurgis, is one of the people that's hanging upside down on the train, on the meat train in the last scene when they're all over there. And they see Jurgis on there, and Cooper goes to save Maya, and Jurgis is like watching it all happening, and then just gets randomly sliced open while they're fighting, and just his entrails and blood just start pouring over his face as he's hanging upside down. It's like, oh, oops. And they kind of look at him like that too. It's, oh, we killed Jurgis. Oh, well.
Fucking jerks.
Gotta run off the train now.
Yeah. I feel like I'm good. You want to rate this?
Yeah. So rewatchability. What do you think?
2, maybe.
2 is fair. 2 is actually maybe even kind.
It is pretty generous, but it's not. It's a good movie.
It's not a terrible movie. I'll go with that.
Yeah. Saying good is actually pretty generous. It's an acceptable movie. I did enjoy the story and I did enjoy watching it. It's just, when will I ever be like, we gotta watch Midnight Meat Train again?
Yeah. So story. What do you think?
I. Huh.
I'm gonna go 3, and I'm gonna go 3 on the promise of what potential there is there for more. Like I'm with you. If a sequel did happen, or even if there was just a more in the writings of Barker about this, I'd like to see what else there is to it. But if this was it would be middle of the road at best. So I kind of look at it as I'd like to see it fleshed out, so to speak.
Flashlight.
Yeah, ew. But until it is, I can't go any higher than 3.
I'm gonna go with a 2 simply because I'm going based on the fact that this is all I get, and then there's just too many holes in it for me to really, really think it's a great story. Now,
Like Jurgis.
If there's a sequel or even a trilogy, then I think that there would be enough to kind of complete it, and then as a trilogy, I could see the story being better. But this single standalone, 2. Scariness.
I don't know. I don't even really know if I want to rate it on scariness as much as I want to rate it on the gore.
Maybe we should change this one up, because a lot of these movies I don't find them scary at all.
There's a suspense to it, but I think the gore in this, it felt like a video game. There were a lot of things where they did where maybe it was meant to be in a 3D effect at that point, when they'd knock somebody in the back of the head and the eye would come popping out at you. But the gore was, if you're into it, was pretty watchable in this.
Oh, I completely agree. It was, I'm not gonna say it was aesthetically pleasing in terms of the amount of gore, but it was like it was a nice gory movie.
Yeah, if you're directing this and you're saying, okay, I'm making a horrific movie with a lot of blood and things, I think that the director did a good job on that regard.
I'll agree with you there. I don't remember if I gave it a number.
And maybe what the highest thing of this stands out as. So for the gore, I'd give it a 4.
I'll say 3.5 on gore. It was good. Maybe I don't know.
I think my extra half point is because of the Jurgis scene.
Fair enough, but like when I scored it, my first initial thought was, well, I don't really think there needed to be more gore, and I didn't think it would be better if there was more gore. So I feel like I should score it higher, but I don't really feel like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm kind of at this weird impasse where it's like there was a good amount of gore and it was done pretty well, but if there was more, would I think it was better? If there was less, would I think it was better? I don't know.
I was impressed. I wasn't like blown away by it, and I don't know what blowing me away with gore would be like, other than a really sick letter to Penthouse.
Messy.
So yeah. So I'm gonna stick with my 4.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah.
I'm not gonna argue with you on that.
I'm happy with my decision to go with the 3.5.
Yep. And if you're happy with your decision listening to this podcast, you can contact us by leaving us a voicemail at 805-328-3966, or you can email us at pot@gncast.com, or you can leave us a message on our website at gncast.com. You can also follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Podcast of Terror, and subscribe to this podcast via iTunes, Stitcher. I warn you, Stitcher. Where I like to go, or any of your favorite podcatchers, and you can leave us feedback on anyone you choose. All subscription options and links can be found under the subscribe tab at gncast.com. Finally, you can join our Facebook group under Galactic Netcasts.
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Matt the Lifeguard. Corey, I can never remember where the hell to find you.
I'm pretty much a Don't Ask Comics at these days. I'm doing don'taskcomics.com, all the different comics that we are putting out or about to put out. Hopefully, we will be relaunching some of them soon. Also, I'm using the Don't Ask Comics Twitter more than on my own.
There you go. Get Corey's Twitter comics up into that dome piece.
Yep.
Thanks again for listening to the Podcast of Terror. We will catch you next week.
Next week on the podcast
Next week, we are joined by creator and star of the show Over, which is about professional wrestling, if you're into that, Gary Yap.
Yeah.
Anyone who's watched Sci-Fi Geeks Club, Gary did a couple episodes when I was on, probably, 2 years ago now. But
Yeah, you've been talking shit about him for a while.
yeah, I've been lucky enough to kind of become friends with the guy. He's done some Simpsons drawings for me, a couple now, and yeah, it's just all around good dude. But we're watching the 2012 movie Entrance, which I A, have no idea what it's about, B, never seen it, C, never even heard of it. So it's going to be interesting. It looks like a weird love story, but like with a fucked up twist. So it should be really good. So yeah, if you want to check out Gary before next week, you can find him at artoverlifestudios.com. He's got a lot of cool shit. He was doing a comic there for a while too, but I think he kind of backburnered it for his TV show.
Who hasn't been there? I haven't been there at all.
I'm always putting my TV show on the forefront these days. But yeah, make sure you check that one out. Should be a good one. He's a super cool dude. So we will talk to you guys next week.
Stay scary, everybody.
Sweet tits. Cool. We still have one viewer, whoever that is. Thank you very much for watching.
That could be either of us.
Oh God, we're talking to ourselves.
That's what we do anyway.
Well, if it's Mark, thanks, Mark.
Yeah, if Mark, even if you left and maybe you see this or hear this later, we just want to say thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Yes, come hang out again next week if you're still there. Smooches.